I recently came across this TikTok video of a girl retelling her interactions with some non-black women while on her trip to Brazil. And she spoke about a particular girl who was not a black woman who was always commenting on her appearance for no apparent reason as soon as they became friends or as soon as she tried to befriend her. I'll go on to show the video and then I will come back with my commentary.
So I thought I'd share this story, and it's going to be one of the few times I talk about issues and stuff, discourse, because I'm the type of person where I have opinions, but like they don't need to be heard. Do you know what I mean? My audience. But I've been seeing a discourse going around about how life is for you when you are a black woman who is very attractive. Or perceived very attractive, to the point where people are almost thrown off or phased because you don't live up to the stereotype or the expectation that they have of you and what you encompass and what you are. And for me, this is mostly prevalent, or has been so prevalent when I've been traveling. So I solo travel quite a bit. And previously, like I've solo traveled like in Europe by myself. And I do find when I meet, like other female travelers from Western countries, mainly the white female travelers, we get on well. But I think at the start, there's a bit of apprehension, especially when it comes to getting to know me. It makes sense because I don't live up to the stereotype maybe that they've had in their head of what a black woman is. And kind of also feeling uncomfortable where we'd be in a situation where a man may try and talk to me and not talk to them, and they're not expecting that because they're used to being kind of the beauty standard or the person who would get approached, right? And I found this like really prevalent when I was in Brazil. And if you've ever been to Brazil before, Brazil is super multicultural, right? And their beauty standard I think is quite different from the West. Obviously still some elements, but I think it's way more fluid, and I think it just reflects the society of Brazil. Like it's so multicultural, so obviously that is different, a bit more confronting for a Western kind of white person to enter, or white woman to enter. I had an example of like one girl who I met, and she was Canadian, and what's crazy is she was a kind of other like woman of color, if you want to put it that way. And I say that lightly because I still think that even despite her being a woman of colour, you can't ignore the fact that there's a perceived hierarchy of racial attractiveness, and unfortunately black women fall at the bottom of that, even though I don't think that should be the case. But she, I think, was very thrown off by just me in general, just very phased, and would make comments. So an example would be like where we were staying, for example, the hostel we were staying at, I bumped into her one time. And I think I was just going to bed, and I had like a night dress or just a dress on. She made comments about me wearing a dress to bed and was like, oh, like, you're wearing a dress to bed. Why are you so dressed up to go to bed? Like, I didn't know you were doing that. And then at breakfast the next day, she was just telling people like, oh yeah, she wore like a dressing gown to bed. Like, didn't know he was doing that. Like, I wish I was a bit more put together. Or like, I don't know, but it was just making comments in a way that it was just felt very uncomfortable. And she continued to make these comments, even now that like I'm not even in Brazil anymore. She sent me an Instagram message and was like, I posted a picture of me at the gym, and she was like, oh my God, do you only just wear one nail colour all the time? Because my nails are always red. And I've still yet to reply, but it's just things like that where it's like, the undertone of it is just very, it's just giving like, I'm not confident within myself, or I feel that you're a threat to me, or you just make me feel very uneasy. And it's a really hard thing to describe. And I just want a lot of young black women to be cognizant of that, and don't allow that to put you down. And also don't think that people aren't attracted to you, or you're not going to be the beauty star, or you're not going to get attention, because I've been in so many situations where I was the attention in the room, and you have to learn how to handle people's reactions to that, and also not let that affect you and how you view yourself, because people will attempt to put you down, especially when it comes to the attention of men, because they're male-centered and they want to be picked. But if you are the type of person where, like you don't even have to do anything and you still get the attention, even though in their head, from what they've been taught, from, from what they've perceived, you're not meant to get the attention. So when it's not going to plan, when it's not panning out as how they have learnt, of how they've grown up, of how they've perceived the world, when it flips, like it's flipped on its head, and it's like, oh, she's getting attention, but how come she's getting attention? She's dark skinned, she's, I don't know, she's this, she's that. Like, it makes a lot of people very uneasy. So that was very long-winded, but that's just an
So from what I deduced from the video, the non-black woman was obviously threatened by this beautiful and confident dark-skinned girl, which unfortunately is not an uncommon experience or situation. As the creator of the video recalled, the non-black girl befriended her, which was definitely not from a genuine stance, and this is something to watch out for as a dark-skinned woman, because there will be times, and there are times when non-black women, non-dark-skinned women, even dark-skinned women themselves, the ones who do have that internalized colorist views, they will try to befriend other dark-skinned women to try to make themselves look better. Because in their mind, if they stand next to someone who they deem unconventionally attractive or an attractive person, but at the bottom of society, they will assume that standing next to that person will make them look better. And or they may actually want to pry into your business, into your life, essentially be a monitoring spirit. And they want to get access to you via this fake friendship to check on how you're doing. So then they can compare themselves to you. And the reason why I mention attractiveness in this particular context is because women in general are competing for the male gaze, especially heterosexual women. Whether it's subconsciously or consciously, it happens. This goes on to be translated into how conventionally attractive the other woman is, because it is a competition, right? Her example reminded me of a very similar experience that I experienced a few years ago. So this was around, I guess, maybe just under 10 years ago. I went on a college trip abroad to the US, and this was in New York specifically. And one of the places that we went to visit was the Brooklyn Bridge. One of the girls in my cohort was on the trip, was a mixed race girl. When we were at Brooklyn Bridge and we were taking photos on the bridge, there was like a group of men who walked by and they complimented my skin tone and my looks, and they said, "You're so beautiful, you have amazing skin," and so on. And I didn't think anything of it aside from, oh, they're just complimenting me. Thank you. I love compliments, right? As soon as those guys came over, the mixed girl literally turned around from what she was doing. She was also taking pictures, but she turned around and said, "But what about me?" Basically asking, what about me? Where are my compliments? In that moment, it was so strange. Because why would it bother you that another girl is getting complimented for her looks? You literally were complimented for your looks. No one had an issue with it. Yet you have an issue when someone else is receiving that same treatment. And it puzzled me for a bit because I was a lot more younger then. But now I know that the reason is because she probably felt that she had a higher social currency than me based on skin tone. And I actually remember learning about this in particular from Chrissy here on YouTube. Many non-black women are actually in competition with dark-skinned black women, especially attractive dark-skinned women. Women are in competition with other women regardless of skin tone and socioeconomic status and so on. But in this particular context, skin tone matters. As we keep listening to the rest of the video, we can see that as soon as that friendship started, the non-black girl was constantly nitpicking at the dark-skinned girl's appearance. It was evident, or it's evident, that she did that because she was indirectly, or more like directly, projecting her insecurities onto this beautiful girl. For some people, especially colorist people, seeing confident, dark-skinned women comfortable in their own skin makes them uncomfortable. And you don't even have to be quote unquote attractive, conventionally attractive, to be at the receiving end of this. Just be a confident person, a confident dark-skinned person that is just existing. That will bother some people. And there's nothing you can do about it because colorists already have an image, a perception of how a dark-skinned woman and people should be treated and are treated, should be treated and should act on the basis of that supposed treatment. And in some societies around the world, darker skinned people are discriminated against simply because of their skin tone. And as a consequence, people expect them to be humble, meek, mild, basically a people pleaser to compensate for their position in society. And when you reject that notion as a dark-skinned person, you literally shatter their whole world view because they now have realized that not everyone subscribes to seeing the world through their colorist lens. It causes many of them to look at themselves, look at their position in society as well, question themselves about whether they are really who they thought they were. People like this usually don't have any sources of self-esteem, aside from thinking that they are better than someone else based on superficial reasons. So when those same people who they look down upon don't adhere to their colorist hierarchy, they have no other anchor to determine their self-perception and esteem. And this video serves as a reminder to be careful of people who try to befriend you, or even family members who try to mask their self-hatred by getting close to you. And also, don't fall into the trap of walking around with a chip on your shoulder and angry at the world and wallowing in self-pity because of these colorist people. I understand that it can make life harder to navigate in some instances, but you also have the power. When you see and hear the colorist crap, call it out and question it. You don't have to be aggressive about it. You don't have to shout at the person. You don't have to jump on the person and say, you're a horrible colorist and so on. You don't need to say that. You can simply question them with a simple question like this. What did you mean by that? Or ask them to repeat what they just said and explain it to you. Usually when somebody is being disrespectful to you and you ask them to explain their disrespect, they quickly become embarrassed because now they're being held accountable. And now I'm wondering if anyone else hearing this has ever experienced a situation where you was in a friendship or in a relationship where the person was a colorist, an undercover colorist. Let me know in the comment section and I'll see you in the next one.